you can certainly expect a new approach. There'll be more ambition, just as much determination, if not more, to provide a clear leadership role from the UK. But I hope the tone will be a little less preachy and that our solutions will be slightly more practical. We're still absolutely committed to getting a global deal, but also realistic about the prospects for securing that at Cancun and even possibly in South Africa. But rather than simply wait for the rest of the world to come round to our way of thinking, we see this as a key window to make real progress in actually starting to transform our old economy into an exciting new low carbon economy. And rather than just talking about targets and just talking about transformation, this has got to be the decade of delivery. And I think if we can show genuine progress towards a low carbon economy, if we can see advances in R&D sharing, in IP, in exciting renewable technologies for the energy sector, if we can develop those, share those with other economies, particularly in the developing world, that will really inspire the confidence that we need to see in other governments, particularly in the South, to actually sign up to a binding global deal. Well, I think there are a lot of voices in the US, either both in Washington and out in the States, who are committed to a low carbon future and see the opportunity. If you go to California, there's some tremendous things going on in Silicon Valley, and you can look at the leadership of Governor Schwarzenegger. There obviously has been resistance in Washington to a comprehensive federal cap and trade program, but even in Washington there have been measures in the green stimulus program that have underpinned investment in these new areas. But what we need is a more comprehensive approach that actually is part of a global framework. And I hope that the agenda will now move on from being solely about CO2 to seeing that actually an aggressive and progressive stance on tackling man-made climate change is totally synonymous with better care for the environment more generally. It's better for domestic energy security and will actually lead to both a cleaner and safer world. So I hope those different tracks will converge to one coherent energy plan. And I do hope that the politics around climate in the US move in the direction they have here in the UK, where there is a much greater sense of bipartisan, cross-party consensus on the problem, and maybe just a bit of a race in terms of ambition and how we deal with that. The EU does have a critical leadership role globally, and I'd like to see the EU in future play more of a role in the global talks than they did so at Copenhagen. But I think the UK within the EU actually has that capacity to galvanise the rest of our European partners. And I think we do need to see the EU making tangible progress towards the low carbon economy, to being a huge incubator for new technologies, for galvanising innovation, for showing that it is the entrepreneurs as well as just state subsidy that are really going to drive this change, and really see the EU as the market leader for the low carbon economy. The UK is committed to providing direct carbon finance and put its money on the table with the new coalition government at the recent Oslo conference. But the lion's share in the long term of the trillions of dollars ultimately that have to flow in new investment has to come from the private sector. And I don't think we've yet adequately nailed the products and the markets and the institutions that are actually going to provide this finance and the models in which that will flow. But I do know one thing, that if anywhere in the world is going to create those financial products and innovate those financial services and galvanise those markets, it's here in the City of London. It's very fashionable to bash investment bankers, but actually it is our genius for financial innovation that we need to turn to a really positive, constructive investment course. And I'm really keen that London become the centre for global investment and where people come for innovative financial solutions, because we have to create those products and create those markets that will allow funds to flow in such a scale in order to get the investment into the developing countries, as well as transform our own economy here at home.